All right. Today we're going to unpack a leadership tactic with a pretty intense name, the public execution career hack. Now, this idea comes from a theory called the law of demonstrated consequences. And look, while it's not literal, its supporters claim it's incredibly impactful. So what's the deal here? Let's get into it.
This quote right here, wow, it really gets to the core of the whole idea. The theory basically kicks off with a really bold claim. A leader's desire to be liked, that's their biggest weakness. You see, the argument is that when you're always seeking approval, you're actually chipping away at your own authority. You're building your leadership on popularity, not respect. And that sets the stage for a totally different way of thinking about power.
Okay, so what problem is this theory even trying to solve? Well, it's something we can call the likability trap. And you've probably seen it. It's this idea that leaders who make being popular their #1 priority, they often find themselves completely stuck when it's time to enforce rules or make a tough call. They can't command real respect when it actually counts.
So this theory presents two totally different paths a leader can take. On one side, you've got the like leader. You know the type, always looking for approval, pulling people aside for quiet little warnings. The rules are kind of flexible. The theory argues this just leads to confusion. It basically invites people to see how far they can push the boundaries. But then, on the other side, you have the respected leader. This person isn't looking to be your friend. They're there to set policy. They act decisively, and the rules are rock solid and the same for everybody.
So what's really underpinning this whole philosophy? It's not just about, being tough for the sake of it. It's actually about tapping into a really specific and powerful law of human behavior.
And this is the crucial part, right here. It's called the law of demonstrated consequences. The whole theory boils down to this. Real authority doesn't come from what you say, it doesn't come from threats or from some employee handbook nobody reads. Nope, it is only established when the consequences for breaking the rules are demonstrated. They have to be visible, they have to be certain, and they have to be real. It's all about showing, not just telling.
And listen, the end game here is incredibly ambitious. The goal isn't just to get people to comply, to just follow orders. It's to create a culture where actively defying a clear standard becomes, well, unthinkable. The risk is just so clear, the outcome is so certain, that people don't even entertain it as an option.
So, the big question is, how do you actually achieve that? This is where the theory rolls out its most controversial idea, the tactic that gives this whole explainer its name.
Okay, first and most importantly, let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. The term public execution is a metaphor. We are obviously not talking about anything literal. In this professional context, it means one single, decisive, and very visible disciplinary action. We're talking about things like removing someone from a high-profile project, maybe even terminating their employment, or some other firm consequence that the entire team witnesses.
So, the theory actually lays out a pretty clear 4-step process for this. Step 1, you establish a clear, non-negotiable standard. Something simple. Step 2, you identify the very first person who openly defies that standard. Step 3, you enforce the consequence, and you do it decisively. No second chances, no quiet chats in your office. And step 4, and this is probably the most critical part of all, you make sure the whole team sees it happen. The action itself is the message.
So what's the logic behind such a high-stakes move? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The idea is that this one single powerful act will have a massive and lasting ripple effect across the entire team's culture. The source material says what you're aiming for here is one single act of surgical discipline. Think about that. It's not some clumsy, angry outburst. It's a precise, calculated, and deliberate action.
And that one act, well, the theory claims it's worth more than 1,000 private warnings. Why? Because all those private chats, they just signal weakness. They signal that you need to be liked. This one public action, on the other hand, is meant to signal one thing and one thing only: absolute resolve.
So what's supposed to happen next? After this one big act? Well, the source claims something really fascinating happens, a cultural shift. The rules kind of start to enforce themselves. The team actually becomes self-policing because now everybody understands the stakes. The burden of discipline literally shifts away from the leader and gets baked into the system itself. You don't have to be the bad guy all the time.
Ultimately, this entire strategy is designed to do one thing: completely engineer a fundamental transformation of the leader's role within the team.
Yeah, it really all comes back to the beginning. It's about making a conscious shift, moving away from being the leader who needs everyone's approval and becoming the leader who calmly and confidently sets the policy for the whole team.
Your authority doesn't come from your personal relationships anymore. It comes from the system you've built.
And the source wraps up with this really powerful, evocative image of what the final outcome looks like. It's not about being loud or shouting people down. It's about a deep, quiet, unambiguous kind of respect. The kind of authority where your very presence commands attention, without you ever having to ask for it.
So there you have it. That's the theory behind the public execution career hack. It's a really stark, totally results-focused model of leadership, for sure. But it leaves all of us with a really critical question to chew on. In the real world, where is the line between this kind of decisive leadership and just creating a toxic culture of fear? That's definitely something to think about.